The MLO Bros are brought to you from our sponsors, Valley Insurance Group, Iron Fit Crew, and August's sponsors of the month, the Saccone Law Firm. It's only going to be a matter of time before we have to call them when we get sued. And also Tom Bird Herman from Subaru. Make sure to use any of our sponsors when you're looking for a car, gym, insurance, or you're getting sued. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for our sponsors of the month.
Work.
What's up, everyone?
Hi, everyone. We are live, BML Overs, from the Riff Raff studio, not my house. Right, Julius?
Right.
I gave Julius my address to my house. He drove to my house.
They're playing football.
So you didn't have to ring the doorbell. They were outside.
They was outside. It was protecting your house.
Yeah, that's good. So,
what are we paying to get dressed?
Yeah, dude, everybody knows where I live.
Everybody knows it.
It's fine. It's got no value.
Yeah,
No.
so Julius Kingsley Oliver is with us, first council ward, and then Derrick McDowell, first time coming on the show, owner of the Youngstown Flea.
Yep.
I'm gonna tell you, okay? We had Julius on a couple months ago. I had people requesting we have Derrick on. You got like fans out there, man.
That might be dangerous.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they were like, you got to have them on. And then when we started talking about the federal building down there, they were said, have Julius on and have him on.
Yeah, and then Julius,
They might want my home address.
we can give that out if you want. Julius too. When you left, you were walking out of here. You're like, all right, I'm gonna bring Derrick on too.
Yeah. So this is like a long time coming.
You can't ignore. Look in the whole city.
That's it.
Yeah,
I want to see
landscaping done.
Well, yeah, and last time we had you on, you said your goal was to build a house in Youngstown, and you did. We had to turn all the stuff. Now, do you live in Youngstown still?
I do.
Okay, so tell us. We've talked to Julius before. Tell us about your background and where you're from and where you lived and all that. Give us a background.
Story. Born in Youngstown, South Side. I grew up near Foster Theater on Laclede, and then my mom, my grandmother used to pray to try to get that place shut down.
Yeah,
I think
It's gone.
YMDC owns it now. But,
okay.
My mom ended up taking my family to Birmingham, Alabama. I was the youngest of four boys, but my oldest brother remained here. And so I spent about 14 years there, came back here, unfortunately, at my oldest brother's murder.
Oh,
He was
jeez.
murdered in Youngstown.
Jeez.
So,
Okay.
strange because my mom brought us back to the city that murdered him. And so I was sort of just keeping my head down. I mean, you asked earlier if I played ball. I just, by the time I got to high school, I was checked out.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Why'd your mom bring you back? She just wanted to.
My mom, we didn't have family in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So she just never got her footing there. She was constantly struggling. We were going through evictions.
Wow.
And my grandmother owned the home on Laclede. And she raised my brother, so she couldn't stand to live there anymore. So it sort of brought stability back to my mom.
Right.
So it was like this weird way to say.
How old were you when you came back?
14.
Dude, that's so hard
First
to
time on a plane, first time ever meeting my dad, first time, and
crap.
as a parent, I don't, my mom unfortunately didn't handle the situation well, because she didn't tell me. I mean, I was coming back to go to my brother's funeral.
You didn't know that on the plane?
No. And my other brothers weren't with me. My mom couldn't even afford to fly my other brothers back to the funeral. So, what my mom shared was, your brother is hurt. We need to go to Ohio. And so as a kid, you're thinking, hey, we're going to go, whatever that means.
Right.
And you find yourself in a funeral car with your dad for the first time. So it was, you can imagine.
Wait, so you'd never met your dad?
No.
And that was the first time your dad was there? Holy.
Yeah. Did you ever meet your brother?
Yeah. Yeah. We would come here this was our vacation.
Right.
Youngstown was a
Holy
vacation.
cow.
Yeah.
Dude, that is some heavy way to
you ask, that's the
opening
long
on
story
that.
Short.
Hopefully it gets a little
we'll get lighter.
warmer tonight.
No,
lighter
this is
than
good.
that.
This is good. This is good. So I mean, it's not good.
That gives you a kind of a little bit of insight as much as how the way Derrick kind of comes off like people don't know his full story.
Right.
His
Yeah. That's a good
background,
story. Right.
His experiences, you know what I mean? But just that, like, I just learned more.
Yeah.
I thought I knew.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I just learned more. But because of the way he talks and he carries himself, people would like never know that was even his story. So when he speaks and his passion for Youngstown and what he wants to see happen, like people don't know what's all wrapped up in that.
Yeah, he came in with a big smile on his face. Yeah.
Right.
It carries himself very happy. Very happy.
But I mean that's some deep stuff right there.
Absolutely.
Meeting your father for the first time in the funeral car of your brother,
the average resident
who was murdered in Youngstown. Yeah. So then, where do you go from there? So you graduate?
Yeah, I mean, I went through high school just invisible.
Okay.
And I sort of went to this space where I was like, I got to prove that all that stuff won't happen to me.
Yeah.
My oldest brother was murdered.
Right.
My other two brothers, unfortunately, one, wound up in federal prison for 8 years, and my other brothers, in and out of county jail and those kind of things. And, we come from a wonderful family. So don't get me wrong. Like, I love my family, but, I set out to try and make sure I didn't become a statistic and, try to go to college to prove something to somebody who wasn't there. And, ended up that just wasn't my space. And so I dropped out of college, started a family, hit corporate America. But I start,
Would you, when you say corporate America, would you do?
I worked for AT&T managing for about 12 and a half years.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
You wind up hitting a space, I was going through a divorce.
Okay.
And you just finally realize, like, this is not what I anticipated life to be like.
Okay.
What age was that, if you don't mind me asking?
I was in my 30s.
How old are you?
42.
As old as me.
Way younger than you.
Yeah.
He looks great for 42.
If I shave my beard,
God,
I got
If he grew it in, like if I
Yeah,
shave-
man.
Yeah.
To be fair, how gray are you if you grow your hair?
My daughter says black don't crack. And I don't know if you know what I mean.
I'm not allowed to say that.
I think Whitney Houston.
He looks like
I hang out with this
40.
Like, I don't know what age this dude is either,
Julius, how old are you?
28.
He's 28.
I might have turned 30 this year.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure.
See, that's the opposite. You say you're 28. I make 28 look good because I'm actually 28.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, he's only 20. I'm 43, and I look like I'm freaking 50 compared to him.
But no, I
look
hang
like
out
I'm
with this
freaking
42-year-old all the time. He makes 42 look really
He
good.
does. Yeah, I look like I'm 60 right now.
Yeah.
That is funny.
You make me feel good to say I'm 28.
It's just like, what have the MLO bros been up to that makes them look the, you know what I mean?
He met why I look like I'm
some
freaking
of these,
40. I look like I'm 60 because he
boys.
met the three boys
Yeah.
playing football in the car.
They was ready
Some of
to
these
get
guests
me.
might be putting some
Oh,
age.
sorry
on
to
you.
interrupt, man.
No,
Here
you're
we go.
fine.
My bad.
No, but so again, it's that moment of reflection where
Yeah.
you realize, like, this is not what I signed up for, or at least what I believed life was going to be like. And so, and again, trying to transition from so heavy, but I did have a heavy moment going through the divorce, which was, I just said to myself, like, I don't know my own kids. I was sort of giving away my life to corporate America.
Yeah.
This divorce was not what I was anticipating. I enjoyed being married. And then I said, I really started listing some of the things that I'd gone through. I was sort of trying to find myself. So I remember sitting in my car in Cortland, AT&T, and I was saying, I've been traumatized, I've been abused, I've been, left, counted out, and all this different stuff. And I was really searching for, like, somebody who could understand. I'm like going through this divorce, and I don't know myself, I don't know my kids, and I'm, probably 29 years old at this point or so. And it's like, it hit me. I'm like, I think I know someone who, like, gets it, like, truly, truly gets it. And I'm telling you, it would be like finding your long lost twin.
Okay.
And I'm like, the only person that gets me after making that whole list of things I've been through is the city of Youngstown.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not kidding. I was just like, oh my gosh, this entire city has been counted out.
Yep.
It's been, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Abused and traumatized and, you know what I mean? Doesn't know itself.
Yep.
The identity crisis.
So you relate to Youngstown.
Yeah. And so I was just like, man, I want to open up and allow this city to get to know me, and I want to get to know it. And, I would take different routes to work every day coming through Youngstown to try and say, where's this street or what's that? Huh. And, the final epiphany came when I said, I'm never going to let Youngstown take my life like it took my brother's life. And it's like, you know, where we're from, like, you don't open your mouth to make statements unless you can back them up. Like, I've seen people say, like, hey, when that dude gets off the bus, I'm going to slap him in his face. If you don't do that, like, your credibility's shot.
Okay.
I mean, that's the most, you know, devastating. You know, you don't even have to have a reason.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Why are you going to slap him as soon as you get off the bus? I don't know.
But you said you were going to do it.
But you said it.
You're going to do it, right.
And so I'm saying this to myself, but I'm hood checking myself. Like, hey, you're saying you're never going to let anybody in Youngstown take your life. Like, how are you going to prove that to be true? And I'm sitting there like, this better be good. I'm waiting on your answer. And it hit me. You know, it's like I had to say, there's no way Youngstown will ever take my life if I give it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't take something that I already give.
Yeah. Right.
And so you will never be able to say to someone, hey, that dude lost his life in Youngstown.
Yeah.
It's too late. Like, I already gave it to the city.
To the city.
I'm already willing to give everything to it.
And the thing is you can see that the day we had the riots or whatever downtown. This dude is literally out there on the freeway talking sense into people like, oh, you don't want to be doing this. Like, this is our city. It's both for both of us. I remember hearing about people that was out there with us. It's like we both put our bodies in the way of stopping people from breaking windows downtown, destroying people's property. And it's like, it wasn't ours, but we felt like this is our city.
It's your city.
You
that
know
makes
what I mean?
sense.
So it's
to
like,
me.
these is people from out of town. These is people from they talking about they come in here to burn and loot.
Yeah.
So you think you saw that? That's what it was. More people.
No, we seen it.
Oh, they said it.
We was
there
talking
were people
to
that
them.
said
Where were they from?
Some Chicago.
They were coming into Chicago to
there were
Youngstown.
some dudes from you know, not even far from here. They were just traveling to different cities that they would find out about these marches. I mean, there was a dude who was sitting behind the Central YMCA downtown, and I overheard a conversation where he said, I'm not from here, and I'm about to run up in everything, y'all ATMs, your banks, your drawers. And I'm in my head, I'm thinking, you picked the wrong downtown.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
like we
ain't.
And then it really hit me like, no, you really picked the wrong downtown. like this is my city,
buddy.
Right.
Wrong city, bro.
And we was out there like that, and I'm sitting here, you know, I'm doing my thing, but I'm getting my energy from him.
Yeah.
So you know, I'm down there like, it's whatever. Like, we got to protect our city by any means, but I'm drawing all my energy from him, like, because he is literally out here.
When you were stopping people, what were people saying?
You know, there were folks that
anybody ready to throw down?
Oh yeah. I mean, there was a situation probably around 1:00 that day. So earlier there was a protest, a march to the courthouse steps. Some folks spoke, and it was dispersed. Well, this was a sort of branch off from that. There were some people who felt like that wasn't enough. We're going to keep going. Around 1:00. They started coming down, cars started coming down Market Street Bridge, right by the Annex building. Well, there was already a crowd formed at the bottom of the bridge. An SUV just drove through the crowd.
Wow.
And there were these three dudes who were dressed in like military boots and black, garb and backpacks. The dude drops his backpack in the street, unzips it, and pulls out crowbars and starts trying to pass them out to the other dudes.
What?
And I mean, they were about to bash this SUV's windows in. Wow. And the SUV sort of pushed its way through. So he just started looking at anything. There was other cars parked. So I literally just happened to be standing right next to him.
Yeah.
And I just put my hand on his shoulder and I said, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, this dude's amped up,
ready to
my height, probably more weight than me.
Yeah.
And I said, if you do that, like, you are going to send this crowd into a frenzy.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm sick of it, blah, blah. And I just managed to calm him down, and he put it back. And literally, we were there till probably 11:00 at night. So you're talking 12 hours of the crowds just moving from. They went to the jailhouse trying to amp people up inside of the jail to get them to riot inside of there. They took the march to the police station.
Yeah.
They
How many people were down there with you protecting the city? Was it just you two down there?
There was probably about 5 or so. Because you had Leonard Carter,
Anthony Young.
Yeah. Derrick Henderson,
Your brother.
my brother came down. So, I mean, I would say, 6 or 7.
Wow.
But, I mean, these were folks who were, you're spread thin when you got.
Yeah, that's
if
not a lot of
really
people.
happens, you guys just gotta stop before it happens.
I'll tell you, there were moments inside those moments, like they turned on the Boardman Street and ran into YPD.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that blue wall. Like YPD's like, we're not moving. We have accommodated you all day long. And so the crowd, and what we don't know is there are people telling people in the community to come down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, drive your cars down here, come on down, join the crowd.
Yeah.
So you have this street that is now full with cars, people, and police. And it's
just
trapped.
it's like a powder keg.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ready
and
to
I'm talking
dynamite.
face
And
to
what
face.
street is this?
Boardman Street, where
Okay.
the City Hall is on.
Oh, okay.
And I literally had to squeeze between police and a crowd.
And you should have seen it. Like, this dude is talking sense not only into the crowd, but to the police.
Yeah.
Like, y'all can't antagonize them either.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, neither side can antagonize
It's like
them.
ready. It sounds like it's ready to go off at any time.
It could have.
I mean, right? Like,
I literally had to coerce. I went to a law enforcement officer. I said, "You don't have to win this moment.
yeah.
Like, we already know you're in authority.
Yeah.
And this crowd, they're here for a reason." I said, if you would do one thing, just, I'm gonna get them to move if you just move.
Yeah.
And all he did was turn like this to crack that wall that they had created. And everybody else turned and they all just went through. And I'm like,
yeah.
And then we went straight over to the jailhouse.
Yeah.
And then a bus in the WRTA terminal, and it wasn't a WRTA bus, it was another charter bus. While they were crossing the street, you're talking hundreds of people.
Yeah.
This bus just pulls out and starts pushing through the crowd, just like that SUV.
Yeah.
And now you have people throwing water bottles at the bus, rocking the bus. Now this driver's feeling threatened and pushing through even more. Wow. I just literally stand in front of the bus. I don't even think this guy could see me. I mean, I'm 6'3", the bus is, and I got a long arm, and I'm just banging on the front window. Like, stop.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? There were people who were like, well, you guys should be trying to cross the street when a bus is coming. And I'm like, do you understand what's going on?
Yeah. Right.
Like, the bus had the right of way. I'm like, there's the right of way and the right thing to do right now.
He did this all night.
Yeah.
All night. Wow.
Well,
these people went on the freeway and blocked traffic.
I remember that.
He's on the freeway with them, like,
trying to get him off.
It's crazy.
Well, that's because I heard 2 law enforcement officers say at 9:00 it's on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what does that mean? I literally were just walking past them and I said, hey, what does that mean? And he goes, curfew's dropping.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing. We've accommodated you all night long. It's over. And I literally saw SWAT trucks. I saw National Guard trucks. I saw, and I'm like, this. And what happened with 680 was they were going to take the march further into the community. So they started going up Market Street Bridge. Well, YPD got up there first and blocked the straightaway and pushed them, thinking that these cars would just get on 680 and keep going. Well, they got on 680 and just boom, stopped. And you're right at that bend.
Yeah.
That's
and
bad.
so there's semi trucks coming around
trying to
there.
stop.
And you have literally people out of their cars on the freeway.
What in this situation? So we got somebody from city here. Who handles that? Is it the mayor? Is it the sheriff or the
situation? It was us. Literally.
We
don't know where the mayor was at.
Where's the mayor? Where's the chief of police? Where, you know what I mean? Well, he was down there. They had to be down there.
The chief came. He was down there earlier in the day.
Okay.
Later in the day, I don't think he was there, but of course he left his orders to his lieutenants and captains to do what they had to do. At that point, law enforcement initiative was just to get everything under control.
Right.
The only problem is I don't think they had a proper strategy of how to get things under control, other than using force.
Yeah.
And in that situation, force wasn't going to work. Force was going to explode things.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the mayor was somewhere getting updates back and forth from the police and everything. But as far as city officials, I was the only one down there.
Wow.
Business owners, he was the only one down there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and Jacob Harvard, Jacob was out there with us too.
Wow.
Politically, what do you do though? It's kind of like if you would like pick a side. You know, if he tries to break it up, it's like, okay, he's against that movement. If he says, okay, let them go, then it looks like he took their side.
I
you know
guess,
what I mean? So it's almost like you just said, I'm just going to stay out of it.
Yeah, Julius, you weren't trying to stop them from protesting.
We were with them.
They were with them.
Walking with
However,
them.
they were keeping it.
Right.
Just don't destroy anything.
Right. So
yeah.
You have the right to protest.
Like it was a guy trying to break Prima's windows downtown.
Yeah.
So it's like me and Jacob are like, no, don't do that. And we end up grabbing that guy, and the police end up arresting him and everything. It was a couple people that did get arrested that night. The crazy part is they were like people from the suburbs.
If you want to know how to deal with community relations, study this moment. Yeah. There were moments where you had people who came out with visible AR-15s on them, standing on the corners, right? And when I talked to them, they said, we're here to help protect. But visibly, you look like a threat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So as the crowd is over here and I get an advanced look at three guys on the corner with AR-15s, I literally went up to that corner and there was a person I knew who drove by in a van, and I stopped them right at that corner and pretended to talk to them so that behind me, so no one would see these three people.
Because if they saw people with AR-15s, it's going to be on.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to, and so the position to take that day you didn't have to choose sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
You simply had to walk with everyone that was there. That was my only goal, is to make sure everyone gets to go home tonight. I didn't choose any sides other than the city.
Though. Like you stop at an intersection with people all upset, and he's like, "We hear you, we understand what you're going through." It's just like get his speech, and now rioters are just like
listening to
him, and I'm standing back like. I'm kind of the type of guy, I'm waiting for something to pop off.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, who am I about to body slam or punch or whatever?
Right.
And I'm calm and mean. I'm like, right.
Well, outside looking in from like the news, you hear that it wasn't really a crazy riot. It wasn't that bad. It could have been worse, but it was pretty
chill. If you're comparing it to the national narratives, for sure.
But you don't
but you don't.
You don't know what you guys went through, to make that happen.
It started off beautiful.
Yeah.
The little girl, Sonia, that put it together, that, got together with the pastors and other city leaders to make it happen. Her portion of it was absolutely beautiful. There was like you said, it was another group of basically antagonizers and people from out of town that came and joined in at the end of that. You know what I mean? So, and then there were more groups that joined in from there. It was like this little guy from New York that was just like leading a bunch of people around. I'm like, why are you following this guy?
And if you listen again to like the other, it wasn't just Youngstown. It was all the cities had outside people coming in, causing problems, which is just crazy.
And let's be honest, there were some local folks here, and I'm not gonna, I didn't have a name tag on everybody to say local versus out of town, but we visibly. Saw
some of the people that did
license plates
were actually local people.
See,
and
that
that's that's the disappointing piece to it.
Right.
But again, if you kept the posture of this is our city and we're not going to let this happen, then you don't have to choose a side, right? Law enforcement, you don't know some of the things there was a black police officer who they said was betraying his people.
Yeah.
Like, not only are we addressing the physical space that we have to deal with, like I had to go to that guy and say, hey, listen, man, don't. That's a verbal assault on someone. A black man
I've heard that
who has to decide whether he's got to stand with his people or stand with his profession.
Doing his job.
You know what I mean? And I'm like,
wow, this is all deep.
I don't even know how we got on this topic.
Yeah, this is amazing.
You asked me my backstory. And
when Youngstown Flea come in? How old were you when Youngstown Flea came in?
So, I call that period of my life like career suicide. So once I got divorced, again, recognized this is not where I want to be. I went to one of my major clients from AT&T who, we provided a lot of cell phone service to him. And I just said, hey, I'm thinking about leaving the company. I want to start my own business. And he actually sort of bought me out of AT&T. I did some consulting work for the owner of Harley Davidson out in Austintown. Got to travel a lot, for about 3 years. And I would see these markets in other cities.
Yeah.
I'm in Brooklyn. They had a Brooklyn Flea. Denver's got a Denver Flea. Miami. It's all these places. And then
for those that don't know, describe it.
It's these, most cases they were outdoor markets, bazaars, whatever you want to call them, where you have makers who bring products that are handmade, vintage clothing, collectibles, jewelry, candles, all kinds of crafty
vendors,
vendor
vendors.
Yeah. It's more of a reclaiming of your, junk markets.
Yeah.
This is a little more put together in a sense, food trucks, live music.
That's awesome.
I was in one in this area called Wynwood in Miami, and the creativeness. There were some guys who had driven a U-Haul truck from LA to Miami, and they opened the back of the U-Haul truck, put a DJ in there. They wrapped the whole outside of the truck with butcher paper, and they just let people graffiti it. And then when you were done, you just rip it all off. They'd wrap it again, and we just graffiti it again. You know what I mean? And
that's really cool.
I'm like sensory overload.
Yeah.
So I come back, and it's like Youngstown.
Youngstown.
And I'm like, all right. And I'm thinking, like, what were the components of what I saw? And I'm like, we have all that, right? I mean, if you're making 7-course meals and you've got everything in your kitchen to cook, you just need a master chef.
Yeah.
And so I just said, we've got the creativeness, we've got the vendors, we've got the arts. I mean, we're healthy in that category in this community. I mean, you list our arts heritage, it's all there. And so I just said, it just needs a master chef. And so I left Harley and jumped out the window and started the Flea in 2016.
And how many vendors you get there?
The first Flea, I had 38 vendors.
How many now?
Now we're up to about 90.
Wow. That's amazing.
And we just bought a building during the pandemic.
I saw that, yeah.
We're across the street from Penguin City, First Ward. He's been a great support.
Yeah.
And
Penguin City loves you guys too.
Penguin, I love them too.
Yeah.
Man. Some nights you need a beer, and if it's across the street, it doesn't.
How cool is that building, Penguin City?
Man,
have you been over there?
Amazing.
Dude,
so awesome.
When you talk about giving you energy, it's like. We're on certainly a different redevelopment structure, but like I'll go over there just for the potential of what can be.
What let's talk about Youngstown a little bit. So you guys both growing up in Youngstown.
I think he's been shot at more than I have in Youngstown. A little bit. So I got shot at in Alabama, but that was
so where I mean let's say this. So from where we've come in the last, let's say 10 years. Let's go back in the last 20 years. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. Where are we at right now compared to 20 years ago?
In terms of what's the scale on? Like what you want to see Youngstown at?
Yeah, progress. Let's talk progress.
Where's our goal?
Goal, business, just overall as a city. You know what I mean? Business.
You can compared to other towns, like where we want to be.
Yeah,
on a scale
where we want to be.
Yeah.
20 years. So 20 years ago. Let's picture 20 years ago. You guys are both old enough.
I mean,
desolate.
You would talk about downtown.
Desolate.
I heard someone describe it as like I could roll a bowling ball down town and it wouldn't hit a thing.
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
I don't know what decade, if that was in the 20-year period of now, but so if you're talking, some of the economic development,
let's talk
structural things, and I would say we got to be careful in that space because to only address a community structurally is a challenge.
Okay.
But structurally, we've come a long way. I'd give us a 7.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Fair.
Like when you talk about the neighborhoods, that's a 3, if that.
Outside,
right?
The neighborhoods.
So where we're focusing that structural, and again, there's data that tells us
2 and a 4.
Yeah.
2 and a 4.
There's data that tells us about investing in your city's core and center and those kind of things. And him, obviously being a first ward council person in the downtown area, that's where his focus is and his constituency is. But I mean, he's a neighborhood guy too.
You live, yeah.
And so you know what I mean? When you pose that question, it's like,
okay, so
which one of my kids is?
You got to kind of balance the both.
Yeah,
You don't have neighborhoods without an economic center.
Let's talk about the neighborhoods then, right? So the neighborhoods need work.
Absolutely, neighborhoods need inspiration. I think one of the biggest problems with Youngstown is, I think somewhere along the way we lost the ability to take responsibility for ourselves.
Okay.
So I think a lot of people look for city government or city officials to do things for them that they can do themselves. I just don't think they know they can do it themselves.
Give me an example.
Cleaning up your neighborhood, just making sure it's litter free. That's something you and your neighbors can do. I went through your neighborhood, and it's like, damn.
Yeah, right.
There's no plastic Mountain Dew bottle on the ground over here, that's because somebody just decided that their neighborhood was valuable enough not to throw it out.
Our neighborhood. I mean, going off of there real fast. Not to interrupt you. We have the front. When you pull in, there's like front flower beds that are owned by. We don't have a homeowners association. It's just neighbors going in to clean it up and fix it and plant flower. Yeah, exactly. It's pride in ownership.
Pride in your neighborhood. But the thing is y'all probably don't even really think about that. It's just
what we do.
Yep. Right. So in Youngstown, that's what I've been trying to instill in people. Is that's the reason why I made these information pieces. It's like you don't have to wait for anybody to come around and do this for you. I'm going to give you some information. I'm going to give you some resources, and this is what you can literally do yourself.
Right.
But at some point, like so many politicians coming down through the decades, took all power onto themselves in order to be reelected time after time, to the point where I think they just
expect it.
They took all of the power away from the people.
Yeah.
And that's why you see the neighborhoods partly how they just went down.
Yeah.
Part of it was just, everybody left.
Right.
So if there's nobody there to refill those empty houses, like our fire department, our police department, all those guys moved out to the suburbs.
Right.
So those houses were just vacant. You know what I mean? If you didn't have a renter or something that's vacant, crack epidemic hit. Yeah. A lot of them turned into dope houses and things. But I think what the people of Youngstown need more than anything is that shining light of hope and resources behind it. You know what I mean? It's like you can do this and we're going to be right here to assist you. But right now it's like we just want you to do this because we think it's your responsibility as the city. And
I that makes sense.
People just need to know. They need to be empowered.
Everybody needs to be on the same page too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because it's like right now, it's like, I tell people all the time, you have to stop listening to the people that's been giving you the people to elect for decades.
Yes.
So if this organization, no matter what an organization is, has been giving you this little piece of paper that you go in the booth and you vote just off this paper, that's their choice. It's not your choice. Yeah. And you've been doing this for decades. And how do your neighborhoods look after you've been listening to these people for decades?
I don't understand how these people keep getting reelected over and over and over. That's what I
Well, you look at the numbers and you say that 22% of registered voters showed up for this election.
That was insane.
Was it 22? It wasn't even that high, was it?
Ridiculous.
Was it 22%? I thought it was lower than that.
I mean, if you look at population compared to the amount of numbers of registered voters.
Yeah, it was 8.
Yeah, I thought it was like 8%.
It was like 8%. The last
in the primaries for sure.
Yeah.
Primary elections typically you see a lot less engagement, but like on the general election for the mayoral campaign,
which is still sad.
And it's like,
you look at the numbers for that. It's like I got 800 some votes.
Yeah, in all of Youngstown.
Ryan Kelly got like 1,200 or something. 1,500, and the mayor got like 3,000.
Remember, we covered that. It was crazy. It was.
So you're talking a combined like 5,000 votes.
Yeah, that's nothing.
With 40,000 registered voters in the city.
Yeah. So the question is
a small group of people making the decisions.
Yeah, but why aren't people voting?
So here's I just want to go back real quick to sort of the makeup, right? And this is me speculating, but if you look at, for example, where you live in Poland, we understand, and you compare that to a Youngstown, what we talk about is like, how come we can't agree? And it's because you have a community that was formed out of a community like Poland, like Boardman, like Canfield, and those are folks who do agree. What they first agreed on is we don't want to be there anymore. We don't want to be in Youngstown.
Right. So
we're going to drive and create these new communities where largely we'll all abide by the same community standard. And we don't largely find a lot of folks who aren't willing to do that. If your homeowners association or if code enforcement comes and tells you something, you get notices that tell you can't have your boat in your driveway.
We've just all agreed that notice holds value.
It has value.
Yeah.
Right.
In Youngstown,
nobody cares.
If I come to you and I even try to tell you like, hey, there's an ordinance, right? Whether I even know it or not, but there's an ordinance that says you can't leave your trash can at the curb beyond trash pickup day. That could cause an eternal beef.
Yeah.
Like,
now I'm always making sure my trash can is out.
Yeah.
No offense. That's how I would handle that. It's real. If somebody told me, I would tell. Yeah,
it's real.
Wow.
I mean, and so if you don't have 60,000 residents who can agree, if we can sit and say what's a good time, well, to some folks it's some things normal folks would name, and in some instances it's this chaotic evening where we end it with gunshots in the air peeling out of parking lots and everybody finding their way, and that's to some people fun.
Yeah.
You know what everybody, I mean? Like that's not
it. Like I said, everybody's going to be on the same page. But everybody's got to be on the same page and grow together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is it also?
And you've got some generational gap there where we didn't. Right. Where do you learn how to do community?
That's what I was just getting at.
And in your community,
in your family,
I'm going to say, is it the family? Is in our dad actually family structure? You just said that up there.
And part of it family structure, but if you don't have family structure, enough that some things are ingrained into communities that you learn intrinsically from when your mower starts up, my mower starts up.
Oh, 100%.
And if it doesn't, right, someone's going to come over and help you assimilate.
Yeah.
My brother moved into Boardman and he drives for the Amish. So he transports them to job sites. Well, he's gone most of the time. And so his grass doesn't get cut as regularly. He's got 2 dogs. He loves them, cares for them, makes sure they're checked on. I help check on them. My other brother helps check on them. But if one, he was working on his deck and left his tools out on the back of his house, and he had code enforcement in Boardman peeking over his fence, neighbors. So what are they trying to tell him? You either assimilate or get out of here.
Yeah. Wow.
That quick. I mean, you're talking months into him.
Yeah.
And living there. And it's not. I'm not disparaging the suburbs. I'm just saying, like, there's a complete difference. I mean, how many employees do we have in the code enforcement department in Youngstown to manage how many square miles of city is there? A lot, right?
A lot.
And so, we've got to go back to what I said earlier, which is if we go with, and this is again not disparaging, but if we just approach an entire city from a structural standpoint and grade it based on that, you can say, well, we're proud of what YSU looks like.
Right.
And we're proud of the new city schools that have been built and the $34 million hotel project.
You almost need to break it into categories.
But if you look at something like, A&E used to have this show called Hoarders.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. And you've got this person who, like, I seen an episode where this lady wouldn't stop hoarding pumpkins.
Okay.
And it's like the health department's coming in. They're rotting in her living room.
Yeah.
She's digging through them to get the seeds out before they take. Oh, that's good. Don't take that. Right. And so they say, listen, you're going to be evicted. This house is going to be condemned if you don't stop hoarding pumpkins. But what they do is a 2-part thing. They'll help clean up the house to address the immediate need, which is we don't want to see you lose your house. But what they also bring in is someone on the psychology side of things to understand what trauma she's gone through that has caused her to hoard. Because if we just clean this up today, she's going to hoard again. And that is what we're doing with our community. We're structurally addressing things, but name an organization that's working on the mentality and the psychology of the folks in our community.
Yeah.
To say that if we just clean up this school and put the same children in it, without teaching them how to value education, you're going to get the result.
This park.
But a murder just occurred there
with no programming and security. After we redo this park,
it's just going to go.
So we're structurally going to fix the basketball hoops and put down some mulch and fix the swings.
I like this.
But we don't really come up with a.
So the point. I mean, the point is you can. What's the old? Well, you could slap paint on things. You could do all that, but if you don't have the people backing it, and you don't have the people,
lipstick on the pig.
Lipstick on the pig.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Youngstown needs is leadership that, this is like the Bible says, you can tell a tree by its fruit, right?
Yeah.
So any leader, you can tell what their focus is by what they're producing in the community. So you got to look at Youngstown's leadership for years and what they've produced. It's like that's that leader's focus. So right now, if Youngstown citizens were to look at Youngstown and say, well, what's our leaders producing? Like, what would they really say? Like, what's been the outcome of this administration compared to the outcome of the last administration or administration before that? And I think moving forward, what Youngstown voters need to think about is, like Derrick said, what do we really need as far as the total wraparound to repair Youngstown?
The whole thing,
back? You need a leader that's going to have the heart and mentality to be able to bring that about.
Right.
Because right now, a lot of government feels like, I can fix this level, but I can't deal with this family level. And I'm like, why not? Like, why can't you? Well, that's not our responsibility. That's not our job. And I'm thinking about my nieces and nephews. Like when my brother and my nieces and nephews' aunt got in trouble and they had to go away, it wasn't me and my mom's responsibility to take their kids.
Right.
They could have went to foster care because that's not our problem.
Yeah.
But it's like, at what point does a city step in, just like family steps in and say, this isn't my responsibility, but I got to do this because this is the best thing.
Yeah.
That's what Youngstown needs. We need a leader that's going to be able to say, this isn't my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to repair your family in order to repair our community. But as a leader, this is just what I got to do because I need my city to come up.
Wow. So what's the move then? As leaders, is the move to start peeking over fences and telling people they need to pick up their tools? Or is it fixing the psychology first and then enacting the rules that then push the community forward?
Our Youngstown needs to know somebody cares about it.
Yeah.
Now, you can't really say it's few people that you can point to and be like, okay, yeah, this leader cares about it. Like people can point at Derrick and be like, Derrick cares about the city and its people, right? But I don't know how I can say it without.
Let her rip.
Let her fire it out there. Fire, Julius.
It's the same kind of reason why I created his position down at the Gavelli Amphitheater and all that, right?
What's the position?
Community Equity and Inclusion Coordinator.
Community engagement and inclusion. I mean,
that's totally made up. That's the most made up thing I've ever heard.
We did. We created it. And the thing is that
looks good on a business card.
Yeah.
That was my original name for it.
But it was largely created to bring equity and inclusion and diversity and affordability and access to spaces, right? We love the fact that Luke Bryan just brought 20,000 folks to the downtown area, but that does not address how the local church gets access to the park space to host their picnic or a family reunion or a fundraiser or a cancer walk or whatever that may be. And so those folks have to feel that same welcome and that same belonging.
Do they not right now?
No. That's the reason for the creation of the position.
We've certainly used a number of ways to keep folks out of spaces. And trust me, the same way I sat as that mediator, in that march we talked about, it requires mediation in this situation as well, because you take it from a management group perspective, there are real folks who will put a gun to your head and blow your brains out in real places, publicly.
Yeah.
And so imagine that happening at our amphitheater or our convention center with 20,000 folks. You'll never see them back again.
Yeah.
And so there are measurements and things that we've got to put in place to ensure, but that can't be at the expense of the same thing is occurring in our communities too.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that with the resources that we have? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
And then you want folks to feel welcome, right? Me and my wife fostered for 2.5 years. It was one of her students. Had an emergency situation. His grandmother lost her sister, who was older, and she just couldn't handle it. It was like she wasn't even sick. I mean, she just repeated that over and over. So we had this emergency placement. This child was 11 years old. My wife had him when he was in like first grade. And she just kept with him all these years. Wow. We bring in an 11-year-old at the point where my other children are 13, 15, 17, 18, you know what I mean? And so what I had to realize was this child for 11 years, and whatever word you want to call it, wasn't groomed by me and my wife. And so to bring this child in with the same expectations that we have for my other children is just wrong.
Yeah.
This child snuck every night to the kitchen and ate. To sit him down and say, we have enough food, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
It took weeks to deprogram that.
Yeah.
What's my point? If you invite Black folks into a space that largely wasn't created for Black folks, you have to accommodate differences in culture.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what we don't want to do in our society and in this country and in communities. My mom blasted music every Saturday.
Yeah.
That was how she got her kids out of the house. Like, I don't want you here.
Right.
As soon as we exited,
I gotta try that this weekend with my kids.
you know, try like Motown's greatest hits in the summer. She's playing a Christmas song or something, like towards the night before Christmas.
I'm gonna try that this weekend.
That door was locked by the time you left.
My daughter would just dance.
I don't know if it works in YouTube and TikTok. Like, that's a whole viral video at
So
that
what's
point.
that adjustment though? What is that?
You got to understand this: is the citizens of Youngstown to this day still don't feel welcome downtown. So when you get people downtown Youngstown, it's not somebody that just came off the south side most of the time. It's not somebody just off the north side.
Those are 20,000 folks who are not from Youngstown, large.
Yep.
And
Because
magically, it's safe enough downtown that night.
Isn't that
for Luke Bryan, for Taylor Swift's been here, Elton John's been twice.
And it's there's the preparation for all those people to accompany to help them. All those people coming into town. Obviously, they obviously prepare for it.
Yeah, it's more of a police presence every time there's a show.
But then invite Nelly. Invite Ja Rule, who's coming in September.
Dude, if they invited Nelly, that'd be sick.
No, we had Nelly.
Nelly was the biggest show at the amphitheater ever.
Yeah, we had Nelly.
Ja Rule's coming.
But
Ja Rule's coming in September.
September 24th.
When did Nelly come? Why did I miss that?
How did you?
I missed Nelly?
Nelly was awesome.
When?
Last year.
Yeah.
What?
How did you miss that?
Nelly? Oh,
the biggest concert at the amphitheater.
Packed, right?
That's awesome.
Packed. And that was me challenging the management group. I went to them and I said, hey, listen, like the schedule, we got to really talk about the balance. Now, what's a Black show? What's a white show?
Yeah.
Right? So trying to deprogram from that language. I'm going out in my role trying to convince the community that the way we entertain ourselves doesn't have to be what you were told your whole life.
Yeah.
White folks love Snoop.
Yeah.
Asian folks love Jordans.
Yeah.
Did you see what I mean?
And nobody likes country.
But well, obviously 20,000 people did.
Which is interesting because white folks make comments to say, I'm sick of country, but 20,000 of you still show up. So
it was, you know what it was?
Even white people are saying we're sick of country.
Here's what that was. There was 20,000 white people from freaking Poland and Canfield that came into town. There,
Brian turned country into like the poppy, like
that's terrible,
girly type country. It's
every country does
So with like, okay, well, sorry. So you get Ja Rule to come, right? There will
that elicits questions, like comments like, "Thanks for telling me what day to be out of town."
Really? People say that?
Oh, yeah. That's what they say.
You're telling me people didn't say that about Luke Bryan?
No,
not about Luke Bryan. But seriously,
Luke,
I don't get it.
But if you look at statistics that tell you which shows have the most fights, the most.
That person's actually even going to be down.
So let's. Here's a topic I'd love for you to explore. future sentiment, right?
Yeah.
The idea that, and I've heard it a number of times, and I don't want to open this up, so let's not do it. But the mural on the mall, right? The sentiment that everything's Youngstown.
Did we talk about that before?
Yeah,
We've
right.
talked about that.
Everything's Youngstown.
I love. Yeah, okay.
Except no one wants to live in Youngstown. Everyone wants to claim Youngstown.
See, we got into it with the girl. I forget who it was about that.
But when you actually get to the physical boundaries of the city, it's like, I'm not sending my kids there. I'm not letting them go downtown. You go on YSU's campus and hear how many kids are being told by their parents not to go down to the bars and restaurants.
See, here's the thing.
It used to be like that more so than it is.
Well, here's the thing.
So the point being is, if we're going to have this real love for the city of Youngstown, then it's got to be more than just sentiment. It's got to be an actual.
It's a delicate dance, though, too, because the downtown area does feed off the suburbs. As much as it doesn't happen, it still happens. So it's like a lot of the money that's going to fuel Youngstown will come from the suburbs too,
which is wonderful. I don't disparage that.
But it's like both of them benefit off of each other.
Yeah.
But my thing is, how do you grow the city without disenfranchising its citizens?
Yeah.
You know
and I think
mean?
that leads into the building. I want to talk about the building.
The plaza. Or the federal.
20 Federal Place.
Yes.
Federal. I keep saying Federal Plaza, but that's not. Yeah,
20 Federal Place. So what is your opinion
I always
on that
tell
stuff?
people to come downtown as much as you can and bring as many people as possible out of the neighborhoods of Youngstown, because every business owner down there needs to understand, like, your citizens that live around you have money to spend too.
Let me tell you what that's doing, right? It's a building block for sure.
Yes.
But my wife has siblings. She has a younger brother, right? In their family, it doesn't matter what he does, he's wonderful. Right? He could do the simplest thing, like go potty.
Yeah.
And it's like, did you see what your brother did? You could solve, COVID, and you get like no attention for that, right? And so when you do a community in the same way, where you say what's of value is just downtown, and the rest is just drive as fast as you can in there and out of there. You're talking about real people who live in those communities, who see that, who feel that. And when you actually look at the investment, right, real dollars that are being spent, they're not seeing any of that. And so it begins to create this resentment. And that's why a lot of them will say,
is there a resentment for downtown?
Oh, for sure.
And there's a resentment,
absolutely.
and there's a resentment for obviously the suburbs.
Trust me, I catch it all the time.
So and I don't believe it's
the first ward. That's your place.
I don't believe it's malicious more so than it is just, this is where we've arrived at it. If your parents keep blaming you for something in the home, and it's really your siblings, eventually you're going to say, you guys aren't even taking the time to understand that everything that happens around this house isn't just me. By the time you leave your parents' home, you're going to have a little bit of resentment for them.
So let's talk about the corridors then. Let's talk about
I know you wanted 20 Federal Place, but there's even that same.
Yeah. I mean, I was that space. That space is different because that was more of the people. We were more pissed off because of the people.
The way it was like, okay, just 40 days, you got to get out. Or
the
60 days, you got to
communication
get
of it
out.
all.
30 days, 60 days, 180 days. Just depends on which business.
Yeah.
But ask why they've got to get out.
For renovations, right?
For renovations. What are the renovations for?
More business.
But do they want them back?
Oh, absolutely not.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That was
so what did we just communicate to you?
Yeah, get the hell out. We want to bring in more.
For a specific type of atmosphere.
You don't belong.
Important.
Yeah, that to me was great, and that's why we were pissed. That right there is why we covered that, and we were all over that because it was. And you and I were talking about it in the car, and we talked about it on our podcast. They purposely did that to boot those people out and get in more rent, more business. You know what I mean?
I have a question.
But compare our economic development to some of the surrounding suburbs and ask presently who's beating the door down to get into a renovated building in our downtown.
Yeah.
You have a $34 million project that's called the Doubletree.
Yeah.
Right? First floor, you have Bistro 1907, and you have Black Curtain still on the other side of the building. Empty space.
Huh.
So is that economic redevelopment going to ensure that we?
The hotel has empty space on the first floor.
On the other side of
on Federal, corner of Federal and Market.
Still vacant.
That's crazy.
I mean, you had a number of
people consider it to be too expensive to get it.
So what happens when you price out?
Which is what's going to happen when you rent this freaking thing.
Now, the estimated cost for redevelopment of 20 Federal Place is $74 million.
Yeah.
And the hotel was $34 million.
So would me and all of the people out here in Poland, we pack our stuff up, we move down and move into the south side, or anybody within the community, or me and my wife, we decide to pack up, we're out of Poland, we're going to go move. Do you want that, or is it something that you as a community have to fix?
I think it's both. It's both, right? Because everything we do sends signals. You know, there's a comedian, Cedric the Entertainer. You know, he did this, The Kings of Comedy. He made a joke one time. He says, "Listen, this is the way the black people are. Yeah, I'm going to tell you this joke, but in the joke, I'm going to tell you it's a joke." He's like, "Black people are built that if somebody in this audience takes off running, we don't have to know why you're running. We just start running. Like we're not discussing it while we're running. Like we'll figure it out."
There's a TikTok of everybody playing basketball, and then you see this one dude just take off.
Yeah,
everybody's
running, right?
So good.
So what happens when white folks start running? Out of a community. And the rest of the folks who remain don't have the resources or ability to run. Well, what signal would it send if in mass they started coming back and saying, "Hey, this is worth investing in"?
Here would be my question, I guess.
Now I'm not, I don't disparage anybody who left or
take a chance and just move in, and then
and there are people who have,
and that was the point of me building a house. It was like, okay, what can you do with vacant property in Youngstown?
Right.
Like I think people in Youngstown need to know they live literally in a gold mine.
But then if that happened, though, let's say that happened, though, and then people start running to that community, the people who live there will then, at least some of the people who live there will then get upset because these people are fixing up these houses, property values are going up, taxes are going up.
You see that all the time with YMBC.
And then in turn, the community members who were there to begin with are like, now I'm priced out. I got to go somewhere else.
But if that's what you're doing, that can't be what you're doing. What you have to do is, my wife has this saying, it's rules without relationship is just rebellion. It creates resentment, right? If you don't come and build actual relationship with a community, then you coming in, buying a house, fixing it up, and raising the property value is not really going to.
It's the same thing as the government telling all these people to get out.
But if you start getting to know your neighbor and saying, "How can I help lift you?" At the same time as I've gotten some resources,
it is literally all about
create our community, right?
About the way or the method of how you do things. So even with 20 Federal Place, we finally got the administration to admit they dropped the ball. They did it the wrong way. If we've been dealing with this 20 Federal thing for probably over 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So for 2 years, you had the opportunity as the administration to go to these people and slowly just coach them along. Like, hey, you might want to start looking for another place to go. We're going to be doing demolition in this building.
We have these options available.
Right. We're going to be working with you for these 2 years until we lead up to even if because I don't truly believe the administration ever believed in this project that it was going to work.
Okay.
So when the money hit, it was like, oh, get out.
Get the hell out.
Get out.
They freaked out. Yeah, that makes sense.
Wow. 6.9 million. Get out.
Yeah, right.
That's 10% of your estimated project cost.
That's the other thing.
We don't have anybody to do the demolition, but get out.
Yeah. That's the other thing we didn't understand. We're like it's $7 million, but the whole thing's gonna cost like 70. We're like,
it's like what that skit with Dave. They should have never gave you money.
Yeah.
Like got him dirty boots on the couch. Just
the way the money works is like a domino effect. So each allocation of money from whatever entity basically makes you eligible to get the next one. So now
they see you using the money.
So yesterday we just made the deadline at the last minute to get the $7 million for the T-Mud grant, like literally at the last minute.
Okay.
So that helps us get the next, historic tax credits, which is like 20 million or something like that.
Okay, so it doesn't,
So each one of these is required to make this thing happen. Like you can't miss any of them.
Okay. And then the whole thing blows up.
Right. So, but in that time, talking to Steadfast and Desmond and all that, the administration should have been communicating with the tenants too, instead of them just hearing whisperings and hearing things on the news and stuff like that. So, and it's for that reason that I feel like those tenants, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the building. Don't get me wrong. It's not, some people haven't paid rent in quite some time.
Oh, wow.
Some people owe money. There's a lot going on.
Okay.
But because of the way the administration handled this, I feel like we do need to give some type of monetary compensation to be able to help some of these businesses. So right now, that's what Steadfast is doing, is kind of working with the tenants to put together what they might need. Like, do you need moving costs? Do you need like payroll in the meantime? Do you need, this or that? And it's not going to be a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's given out to help. It's just not.
But I mean, basically, in part, what you're saying to folks though is, and I've seen it all, right? VXI is within the building. They have a couple of hundred employees. Again, you have a variation of backgrounds and environments of folks, and where they grew up and how they handle their professionalism and this and that. And you have smokers, non-smokers, people who litter, who don't litter, right? And so, but what you've done though is, in a sense, you placed a company's value to you based on its ability to pay you rent up until the point you don't need them anymore. You see what I mean? And so it's like, did we do that to the DoubleTree Hotel? Because over the pandemic, they were behind 14 months on their mortgage.
Yeah. Wow.
And because the city is third in line on their loan, right? They're wrapped up in this loan as a creditor.
They let it go.
They were like, we're going to move your payments to the back end, and we're going to defer them, right? So we just showed value to one person versus the other.
Messed up.
And again, I'm in business. I understand.
Yeah.
We don't want to see a hotel default, but that value still exists for folks who've been holding down 20 Federal Place for all these years until you've reached this space of being able to get to. And does that have any value to you? Imagine you say, hey, I've got this house that's for rent prior to the housing boom, and I couldn't sell it because it was underwater. I got caught in that 2007, 2008. But you found me as a renter to pay you $900 of a $1,200 lease. Yeah. Right? But soon as the market gets red hot, sell it. Now I got you through, buying your new house in Poland with your family to play football. Yeah, it might have been $300 short of what you could have, what you needed, but could have sat vacant as well. You know what I mean?
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
And so that's what I'm looking at, is that these are human beings that we're talking about.
And that is why we were pissed, right?
Some of the admissions from publicly in these meetings that officials are making that are saying it's time for us to cut the cord. And this is why the city shouldn't be in business in the first place, because it's not a good, landlord. And, that these folks are just mad that they're going to have to go out and pay full rate for rent now. Yeah. Now, again, when you talk about what they're doing, they're just now going to renovate and redevelop 20 Federal. I wasn't good enough for you to do that. Yeah. That'd be like me moving into your outdated house and paying $900 a month. We never questioned whether or not this space you've given me was even worth the rent you were charging me. With the foot traffic that's coming to 20 Federal declining over and over and over again, the pandemic, we didn't have an events coordinator for 2 years and 4 months. That means no one was championing traffic to your city-owned facility. While you were watching, the suburbs went through the same pandemic we went through. And yet, where do you see Southern Park Mall now? Renovated, the Bartlow Commons, new. This is where our businesses want to go now. Columbiana, Boardman.
And that's where some of those 20 Federal people went. They went to the mall.
Did they?
Yeah.
So if your value is, we can make arguments all day long to say, well, they were paying a reduced form of rent. Then what? Was your space even worth what you were asking?
What it was.
Because it's not renovated. If you go into 20 Federal and look at the food court, it looks like it's from the 80s.
100%. There's some good food there.
Some great food.
Yeah. Really,
but if you want me to pay a premium rate, Even the mall, Southern Park Mall, recognized they couldn't drive premium rates at a certain point until they, renovated and created some draw and value to it. So, if I just don't, I know business well enough that the only measurement isn't what monetary value. And again, when we talk about those signals, what does an eviction say to these people? What does it say to folks who were thinking about coming to Youngstown? Now, you understand, I run a market of small businesses who aren't from Youngstown, who are getting an impression of Youngstown. I got messages all night long. Hey, I was thinking about, is this how your city does business?
And that's what the message we tried to relate to the administration. I'm like, look how anybody is looking at us in this situation because of the way we decided to handle it.
Yeah.
It's like, and I keep saying we. I'm not part of the administration, but
it's a reflection on you, though.
Yeah,
being
it is on all of us.
Yeah,
it is,
100%.
and it's like number one, when you're dealing with leadership, you kind of got to have somebody that's well-rounded enough to be able to deal with multiple situations.
Yeah.
So in this situation, you clearly have people that had no idea what a small business goes through, or what they would need, or the fact that if a small business doesn't have a place to do business for any amount of time, they're out of business.
Yes.
It's not like we evict you just find a place to go. And
hey, thanks for getting us through that pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. So it's just like,
think about a tenant you've had for 14 years who Two Guys Clothing has provided outfits for our youth for occasions like prom, homecoming, weddings,
my first
receptions. My kids purchased from there, right? Yeah. And so you are not only just putting a monetary, there's no monetary value on the memories and moments they've created. So now take that veteran business who's been in there 14, 17 years.
Like Capital Green.
And then, so I'm going to go back to like a tenant, right? In your own residential home. I challenge that this should not even have used the words eviction.
Yep. In that letter.
Who the heck's going to evict someone who's held down your property for 14 years?
You know who does? The lawyer.
This
was the lawyer.
This law director.
Literally should have been.
Yep.
Right? No one is conflating how to renovate a building. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not foolish enough to argue with contractors when we're dealing with asbestos to arrive at the way it needs done. Right? That's a logistical challenge we've got to overcome. But how we value you for what you've done for us means we don't use the words eviction around you. Yeah. We talk about how we're going to help out of relationship relocate you.
And that was
to the best of our
how
ability.
It was supposed to happen originally.
I knew this.
I literally
you were hinting at that.
I
on
show you
Facebook
emails that this is how it was supposed to happen. Emails that literally say, "Do not send the tenant letters."
Yeah, and they did.
And they did.
We. I mean, you remember? I laid into them. I mean, I tagged the mayor. I tagged everybody because it was. And again, this is us outside looking in from Poland, but it is like this is not the way a city should treat. And you say a city, and it is the city. Yeah. Again, you guys, you guys represent Youngstown. You both do it a good job. But again, when a city, the mayor's office, the lawyer, they do something like that. That is a piss poor reflection on that city.
It was true.
Now, here's how we'll absolve.
Yeah.
Right. You see the maneuvering. It'll say we were unable to engage these tenants until an eviction notice went out. Now, you can believe that if you want.
I don't buy it. Yeah.
And that is how you'll justify the treatment, rather than I'm the kind of person that'll challenge and say, so you're telling me that you're not able to communicate with your own tenants until you send them notice of eviction. Like a normal communication, just a simple, hey, now you look at the timeline, a Business Journal article from November of 2021 was the first public notification that the city was going out for these brownfield dollars. That is, you can draft an official communication with your tenants through your law department to say, hope you've noticed, but publicly we're going after these dollars. We're hopeful to get them, but we know just as anyone else knows that there's competition from every community and every city, and we simply do not know. We will try our best to keep you well informed of our progress. What happened next was a MOU agreement with the developer in December. They gave them 60 days exclusivity to shop the property around, to begin thinking about what it looks like to own it.
Now think about it. At this
There's
point,
your other chance. Now you've got random people
The
coming
tenants
into
know.
this building. Wow. It's like, again, you strolling a new tenant through the house I'm renting.
You're gonna have shirts and you're gonna have shirts and ties going through. Those guys are gonna notice it. Yeah,
Right.
the
So-
businesses are gonna notice.
Now put the onus on the business and
Not
say,
only
well,
that,
they
they
should
gonna
have
watch
done
the
a
news. They know.
They're busy running their businesses
Right.
as well, though. So some of them may not got a direct communication. But you had that exclusivity window where now this developer is bringing in folks from out of town who are saying, hey, we're who is going to largely fill these spaces when we're done renovating this place? And so that's another opportunity to put out an official communication to say we've now,
And they never did
come
any
into
of
an
that.
agreement with
Wow.
an official developer who's interested in this property. You had an opportunity when the grant was awarded in June to say, but what did we do? We waited till July, right? So
I feel like
that
on
loss of
purpose,
time.
on purpose. It was if you paid attention to the last buildings and grounds committee meeting, the only member of the administration that actually showed up to it was our finance director, and we asked the question like, did the mayor know?
Yeah.
And he dropped his head. You could tell like he didn't want to say, you know what I mean, but he finally just said we had a meeting. I informed the mayor, and I was instructed not that we could not engage them. So they came to him. They gave him the plan. Like, this is what we need to do with the tenants.
I mean, Councilman Oliver in the meeting tried to help him. Like, please just tell me that this letter went
was
out
a mistake
by accident.
Yeah.
And the finance director. And again, ask yourself why the finance director
Is
is
the
answering
one
this
speaking.
when the law director
It's
sent the
sitting
letter
right next to him.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Poland's lawyers is kind of the same way. Doesn't it like to admit he's wrong or does anything wrong ever?
Right.
So I get
So,
that.
Again,
the lawyers.
I think, and what also happens in these moments is, unfortunately, when you have such great challenge in the city of Youngstown, these things become so exhausting to deal with that we begin to tune out and become apathetic to them. And
I think also what happened basically is that we don't have an actual economic development department at this point. So I think without having somebody there that was going to be able to negotiate these things, who's really at this point in the city understanding like the lease, the master lease? Clearly, our law department did.
Do you have a communications, PR communications, anything like that in the city?
No.
See, nothing like that.
That was supposed to be wrapped up in the next events coordinator.
Okay, because
That
that's
needs to
what
happen.
needs to happen
Yeah.
right there, and that needs to happen not just in Youngstown,
Trust me.
every city, every building.
Trust me.
needs that.
He's beat the crap out of that horse. I
Yeah.
beat the crap out of that horse. And it's like
Yeah.
the thing with this administration is let's not communicate.
Yeah, it's like that everywhere, man.
Let's not tell anybody anything.
With that property, though, I feel like the end goal, I mean, not the goal, but like the ending is still the same. Like, it's going to go in the direction that the city wants it to go in terms of the businesses they want in there. And no matter what happens, those people that are in there now are still going to be upset and feel like they were like abandoned. Like, no matter which way, no matter how much you dress it up and PR it up, it ends the same.
But had the communication started earlier,
it would have been better.
It would have been better.
It still ends.
You want to rip,
And
you know what I mean?
that's another part of it too. Regardless of how anything went down, everybody was going to have to leave the building.
Yeah. It ends the same way.
It does end the same, but it's a matter of doing it the right way,
Yeah.
and doing it the way you know what I mean.
So, but let's be honest, right? Let's play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Give me an example of a multi-million-dollar renovated property in the city of Youngstown that has attracted major retailers and vendors to it. Right? So the likelihood of the outcome you're describing going exactly like you're describing is very low. Let me give you an example.
What do you think goes in there?
Right?
What do you think goes in there?
I think they want like restaurants and they want it to look like the
Sure.
rest
I mean,
of
the plans that the developers put out was a bowling alley and a skylight.
At the end of the day, you're
you
going
know-
to have retailers in there that you don't typically see within the inner city.
But so, and I'm not here because and I want to be honest to tell folks, Councilman Oliver and I, like, our personal relationship, our professional relationship was great. We're never going to always agree.
No.
And again, he's an elected official. His ward, this building sits in, and no one wants to see it fail, right? No one does.
No one.
But my perspective as a resident and a business owner, I'm in a different seat than he is, so I can come from different angles when I
100%.
converse about this. So I'm going to give you an example. If you take YSU as an example, right? President Tressel gave speeches all day long when he first came in here about his initiatives, what he wanted to do on campus. And what he admitted to was, I'm listening to the students tell me what they want to see on campus. And what they want to see is amenities that allow them to stay on campus longer. So that's housing, that's the Chipotle's you got, that's the Barnes and Nobles, that's the book, you know what I'm saying? The Starbucks, the Chick-fil-A's, right? The new crosswalks, the lighting, the road diets, the stadium. We got the football team looking great, right? So campus looks structurally wonderful, right? Where's enrollment?
Is it down?
Down every year.
Oh, it's going to keep going down too.
Down every year.
Market.
But so what I submit to you is that all of that effort still didn't produce the results that a winner like President Tressel could deliver. Now, again, I agree. There's some market trends that are telling us, right? COVID put people in a whole different mindset about their education.
Yeah.
And whether it's online or, hey, I don't even want to be in this.
And like trades and stuff.
But we're talking prior to pandemic, enrollment was declining year over year. And so all of those structural amenities didn't resolve the issue. And so what does money do for us? In a city like Youngstown, it doesn't change the perceptions wholly. So how many folks do you think are going to be beating the door down to pay higher rent in a $74 million renovated building when you have a hotel right across the street that has been renovated for $34 million that has open and available space? The Chase building, the Huntington building, the Hub building, the Creative Arts building, all these buildings have been redone, and they're just sitting there.
Well,
it's not like we're at an absence of space.
Councilman.
This project absolutely
has to happen. I agree, because we're in it now.
And it has to work. And I'm going to tell you what we've been doing downtown all these years.
And that's not to disparage efforts, right? I'm not suggesting like, we shouldn't do these things, or that I'm secretly hoping they fail. We have to look at data. I don't
disagree with what you're saying.
We have to just look at the logical data that's telling us there aren't many folks beating our doors down saying, I need to be in Youngstown, especially with
how do you do that? How do you bring in? I think that's
it's everything.
Is to get people.
Everything we've been doing is to lead to that beating down.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So everything that's been built up from Phelps Street, which clearly still needs more work.
But when President Tressel retiring, when our Parks Department directors resigning and leaving, when our Economic Development Director resigned in May and left, do you see the trend? Why are these people leaving? Imagine Elon Musk left Tesla.
Yeah.
Are we selling that many Teslas? Now we are, but their market value was not in line with their delivery.
Yeah. I mean, I went downtown 2 weeks ago, right before we went on vacation. We went to eat, and then we went to Bistro for breakfast, brunch with friends, and then we walked all around, walked all the way down to the amphitheater from Bistro, and all the work that's going on down there. I think the end goal is gonna be beautiful.
It's coming.
It looks awesome.
It's coming. You got Still Light moving into
and you can see
turning technology.
Yeah,
so.
I can see where it's going, even though the road is torn. It was torn out. But it's like I can see what you're doing.
You got the Huntington building got 70 apartments coming to it.
Yeah.
You got the Gallagher building being renovated.
Yeah.
Right. So these are homes. These are people are going to come and reside downtown.
Yeah.
And like I keep telling people, the more people you get moving into the city, the more likely we can attract more amenities. So you get more people living downtown. Eventually, one of those buildings is going to turn into a grocery store downtown.
They should have made Realty a condo. I would have bought it 7.
They was supposed to. Like my price was like 141.
So fast.
Yeah, me too. They
Flats on Wick is on share of sale.
Yeah.
How much is
3.8? I think.
You guys want to go?
Let's all go in. Let's all go in.
Hey, get through your concussion first, though, because I don't want no legal outs when we put this money up.
You might have to wait like a couple weeks.
I invested under duress. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was locked in a room.
Look,
with
that's
a
why
concussion.
everybody out there in podcast world, please understand I'm moving slow because I do have a concussion.
We're gonna need you to sign some papers before you.
Yeah,
go.
exactly.
Just sign this
Of his
paper
own.
say you'll take care of the full 3.4.
I'm gonna have to mortgage the house of his.
You guys are gonna wind up in court for something. Coercing a councilman. What's you're gonna be on crooked?
Right here, Mr. Councilman.
You're gonna be on that. You're gonna be on that crooked.
Crooked Youngstown
And
too.
our city law director is watching this right now, trying to write down everything I'm saying. I saw you. You took
Were
a
you in
bribe.
your official councilman capacity on that podcast?
Right.
I think though, I think the campus, whether we like it or not, I think why it's huge due to outside variables in terms of kids going to school online and also trades. People realizing that I can make a crap ton of money going into a trade rather than going to school.
We're just starting an online
It's going
business.
it's going to decline whether we like it or not.
Can I before we've been talking forever now, too, by the way. We're in overtime, which is fine. No, dude, we're in overtime. It's normally an hour.
This is such good conversation.
Yeah.
I don't even care. That
I had a question about the South Side.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the South Side to me is near and
Hey,
dear.
what's
Because
up, Mark?
we used to have the bars down there. We used to go out in the bars. Let's just say my little office right here, our little office. What makes me want, like, how do you get people to go to there? I've looked before. Are there buildings for sale on the South Side? Yeah. Are there, like, and let's just say we went in there, right? And we bought a building. We put our podcast studio in there. Right?
It'd be great.
Call Ian YNDC and go in Foster Theater.
Because we
That'd be
play
the best. Theater, the old porn theater. For
Dude,
bros.
dude, if we could put up our freaking studio in an old porn theater, is that not appropriate?
Do it.
That's not appropriate.
No, it's totally
It's
appropriate.
totally appropriate.
You haven't watched
We're
our
a
show.
bank. Our day job is a bank. So
I only said that because there was somebody, I think Phil Kidd had told him to do a podcast.
True story.
It's got two front retail.
True story. Today, Isaac and I were talking about. I don't know if this is this.
We were talking about how our Facebook allows you to now like subscribe. Like so people could subscribe and pay like monthly. And I was like, dude, what if we just do like turn our Facebook page into an OnlyFans and we have like our podcast. We have our podcast Tuesdays, Thursday, 30, and then we just say, hey guys, like the dirty pictures. If you subscribe, you get 30, and we just post like pictures of our feet on the subscribe. Like,
That is what people do on OnlyFans.
that's what I'm like, dude. We just do that, and then people will be like, "Oh, what do you see if it's a subscribe?"
Now, let's get back.
Big ass.
So both being from the South Side, like we'd probably never be a guest again.
Yeah.
Where we're from, like we can't even. Can't even accept like y'all going on that show where they show their feet after hours, like sexy feet after dark.
Me.
No, only the people who pay for it.
That show in
That's gotta be
Foster's
like-
where they show their feet.
That's like some HBO Max.
So, yeah, they don't want us on the South Side.
Yeah. How do you get businesses into the South Side? Like, because for me, Market Street, that's I used to work at the Y. Isaac lived like
I
Market.
think
Street,
all it takes is
how do you do that? Is
having vision enough to do it.
that it?
Somebody got to just step out there.
Step out there and call it and do it, and that's
It's
it.
like on my street right now. There's developers looking at the hillside
yeah,
and building like high-rise condos on the hillside overlooking
just need
downtown.
somebody to take a leap.
I told them, I was like, you just gonna have to be the first one. And they're like, we're with it, Julius. We'll do it. The city is giving them issues.
How does that happen?
Like you can't get them to meet with you. You can't get them to give you a
that's so
price.
frustrating.
And they
The
like,
building I own didn't have a for sale sign in front of it. So,
You should negotiate.
You just go in and talk to the owner.
Yeah.
Just call them up.
and that's exactly the same way you do it on the south side.
Yeah.
Same thing
you
with
gotta fall
Penguin.
in love with a space.
Penguin was supposed to go over to the west side somewhere.
Yeah.
But they was like, no, we want to be downtown.
See that building.
Here's an old steel mill.
Yeah.
Same thing with Derrick. Oh, here's an old steel mill.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hannah from Dope. She'll be opening up on the 19th.
I saw that.
You know, so it's like having like the hotel. It's like,
Yeah.
well, like these guys are like, oh, we're going to put a Hilton Doubletree downtown. Everybody else is like, dude, you crazy. It's never going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
they did it.
They did
yeah.
it. You know what I'm saying? So
I like Warehouse 50 though. I thought it was nice.
Warehouse 50?
That used to be
Burger
the B
place?
Dubs.
B Dubs. Right after B Dubs, Warehouse 50.
Yeah,
I think I ever went in
Like
there.
that was
2010 to
brief.
2013.
Who owned that?
That's when I went.
I don't remember, but
YSU.
I remember
B-Dubs
B-Dubs closing.
Yeah.
They closed that B-Dubs because it didn't meet the standard of
Then
all
it turned
the
into
other
Warehouse
B-Dubs.
50.
That's not exactly
They let
true.
18. They
No?
let 18
All right,
and
well,
over
see?
in there and drink. I was
No, it
just
was-
going
Whole
in there and
I
drinking.
thought it
That's
was,
not exactly
it was
true.
Dooney's before it was Warehouse 50.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know I was going.
It was all
when I was
brief.
like 18 and
Yeah.
19. I was going to Warehouse.
The only
50.
thing keeping any of that alive was Party on the Plaza.
Yes,
It
was.
exactly. They also
Yes.
let you in the Party on the Plaza if you were 18 and over.
See, me being so you're my age, right? He like when we were in our 20s, they were like you said, bowling ball thing. That was true. All that was down there was a couple bars
Yeah, me and
for
Uncle
underage
Bill.
drinking. That was it.
I mean, Jacob came
Cedars.
with like Lemon Grove.
yes.
And, you know,
Cedars was one.
and started popping things off like that. Rosetta
Lincoln,
Stone,
that I
all
mean,
that.
it was campus bars mostly.
Yeah.
You know, you had Ernie,
And then
Ernie
and then
McDougal's
then
and
YSU
Pogos.
went dry.
Yep.
So they closed all the bars down and everything,
Yep.
and then you seen more decline. But
Yeah.
it took vision and just not being afraid to lose your shirt.
Yeah. So that's it. And it's going to take the same for the South Side. It's going to
It
take the
is.
same for across the board. You got people like, Derrick starting up stuff like that. I mean, that's it.
Youngstown is absolutely the best place
Yeah.
to start a business. Really, it is, because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
You come to the suburbs, there's everything. You got this restaurant, this place. There's everywhere, you know. But in Youngstown, it's like a blank canvas.
Yeah.
Like, come do
Well,
something.
look at our boy, Joe Daniel. The Youngstown
yeah.
Studios down there.
Studios.
Yeah, he's down there too. Yeah, he's down there too. I mean, Joe. Yeah, I mean, you got people down there. But now I want to go. I want to
And
move
we've got to learn, number one, and I won't say a name, but there was a publication out of PA that writes about industrial cities.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, we want you to write, for our publication, your former industrial city, Youngstown. And so the article that I wrote was about our story and not allowing folks to tell us our own narrative. Right?
I think I read that one.
And it was like, folks will soon forget our heritage when you talk about, Arby's, Handles, Warner Brothers.
Arby's
You
was
talk
Youngstown?
about,
You didn't know that? They're
um,
starting to forget already.
Good
Wow.
humor,
good
ice cream.
ice cream, the amenities that we even still have now. When you talk about the river, you talk about Dior, you talk about the Playhouse, you
All
talk
of the
about,
talent that's came out of
we got a
Youngstown.
Van Gogh painting at the Butler. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
Butler is amazing.
awesome. So,
We got
long story
Grammy
short,
Award-winning artists that's from Youngstown and live in Youngstown. Yeah. Ohio players.
Yeah.
You got Derrick, Derrick Dixie, who deals with the music for Beyonce.
on the
You know,
Lemonade
so
and
wow.
Coachella.
Josh Triplett. We got so much that comes out of Youngstown.
And so interesting thing was in the story, I point to the Mills closure. So I started this initiative by council gave a proclamation. The mayor gave a proclamation, and Congressman Tim Ryan gave a proclamation. It's called Reclaiming Our Identity. So it looked at the day the Mills closed, September 19, 1977, and said, we're no longer going to call this Black Monday.
Yeah.
Right? It's my belief that our challenge on that day was we forgot who we were. Not that we just lost industry, but we lost identity.
Yes.
And when you conflate your identity with an industry, then you're lost. But if you know that I'm an entrepreneur, if you know where I got my beginning, that those same amenities are still here. What did John Young see when he came to Youngstown and created this area? He saw the vast amount of land and a valley with a river, with rich minerals, right? What is absent now from the time Youngstown was founded till then? Maybe the minerals that were abundant in the ground, right? But we still got the river, we still got vast amounts of land, and the people were important to that as well. You didn't start out with behemoth mills, right? They started as little shops, right? Foundries, and then we built into that. And so on that day, had we remembered who we were, we're Youngstown. So I'm writing this story for this publication in PA about understanding our own narrative and not allowing us to be a political backdrop to every time there's an election, folks come here and tell that same story. And so here
This
is
is the
this
only person I
publication.
know that corrects the news.
Oh, every time.
Like if the news say a crime happened by a Youngstown person or in Youngstown, and it's not from Youngstown, this dude is like, dude, why are you saying this is Youngstown?
Right, because it's a disservice to if there is a person accused of, one article said Youngstown man has sex with 4-year-old. Number one, there is no sex with a 4-year-old. That is rape. Yeah. There's no consent at the age of 4, right? And so I'm asking myself why, right? That title even reads that, but then I'm going to go ahead and read it because it's clickbait, not open it. And the immediate thing that gives it away is here's a Youngstown man who was indicted in Trumbull County when Youngstown's in Mahoning County. So how did that happen? Right? We don't take the time to see that his address is in Liberty. And then you'll get the folks, why my argument about the mural. This is where we come back around. Well, it's all Youngstown, so why does it matter? It matters because the folks in Liberty need to know they have a pedophile in their neighborhood. The school around this person needs to know that this person is preying on little children. Right. And if we lump everything into Youngstown, then that community doesn't understand it's got a wolf amongst sheep. Right.
And there's also the problem that we're again not controlling their own narrative.
And so
anything crime related comes from Youngstown. That's the narrative they put out there.
You guys have
not true.
You guys have problems with the news sometimes?
He has problems with it all the time. It's probably old.
He might not want to answer, but do you?
Yeah. What you mean problem?
Just the way they write the articles. Not
like
even
he sounded like
absolutely.
He sounded like
he sounded exactly
the
like
and
me.
the clickbait. It's like
you just
there's always
like
a
me.
magic question they have that if you don't handle it well,
it's starting to become sensationalized. Right?
Even our local news is.
Yeah, it's like tabloid.
Especially online because they want those clicks.
Sure,
100%.
Now if you understand that, you can
people don't
head it off and see it coming, and
people don't. Really
there are some folks that are truly
exactly like me,
genuine in their reporting, and then there's the what can I grab out of this and really. You have to be very careful. I mean, I was after that march we had done, YPD invited me to a use of force training. They wanted to say, hey, come get an insider's view of what we have to deal with. That was just one day. We want you to see what we go through.
They didn't invite me.
In the hallway, a news reporter came up and all the questions were just, hey, how was it? Blah, blah. The ringer question was, so what do you think about this being the first time that Youngstown Police has ever invited someone from the community to observe them in their use of force training? And I said, I don't know that to be a true statement. So what you're trying to get is like this moment of, right? Verify that for me. How do I know that I'm the first? So that seeks to pit me against them right then. Right. And so I say, I don't know that to be true. But back to the original narrative story, which was I'll end with. So this publication gets my story about not allowing other folks to tell our story. And you know what they pushed back? They said, this story is wonderful, but it won't engage our readers in the way that our publication. Can you rewrite this? And I sent them back and I said, how strange of you to try and ask me to rewrite my story about how people are rewriting our story.
Yeah. Wow.
Like that's how quick it happened.
This is like what the sheriff told me one time. He had, billboards all over Youngstown with, showing people raiding houses and putting people on the ground. It's basically the message is like snitch on your competition.
Oh yeah, they gave you an 800 number. Hey, drug dealers, snitch on your competition.
So I'm like, dude, this is gonna make everybody like literally be paranoid and start killing each other. Because it's like, damn, what if this dude called this number on me? Like, wow. Did you call that number?
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So I'm like, you really about to cause more violence in the community. How about we put up some billboards that encourage people to do something different, that changes people's mentality? You know what he told me? And we had the money to do it. You know what he said? That's not the message I'm trying to put.
And he called me. Like, I need you to put together some, community billboards that actually engage our community.
Right.
You know what I mean? That will, and that's the kind of stuff that when you talk about not knowing who we are, we give away our identity so easy to things. We give it away to industry. We give it away to individuals. We give it away to politics. We allow folks to come and tell us who we are.
This is good. This is why I need this, because it was like, now I get the sign thing.
That's partly why neighborhoods are the way they are in Youngstown. It's like your narrative is you live in hell.
What's the point?
Folks who have said literally, I call it morbid, but I'll screenshot these types of comments where Youngstown's a cesspool. Yeah. Youngstown is full of animals. This is what somebody commented. Wow. You should just cage them in and let them kill themselves.
Or now, bulldoze the whole city.
So this is what I did for someone on that comment. And those types of comments, they just come off, they just roll off folks' tongues or keyboards like it's nothing. So I challenged this person. I said, let's play out your proposition. Let's cage in these animals. And trust me, I do not treat our people like this, but I said, we're going to use the example as their dogs. Let's cage in 3 dogs, 2 males and a female dog, and treat them the way you just suggested. They're animals, they're savages, they're vicious. So what's going to happen in that cage is largely 2 male dogs are going to fight all day long because one wants to exert dominance over the other. And when they're done fighting, that winner of that fight is going to go lay with that female dog because this is my prize. And you can't have it, you can't touch it. But what you don't recognize is that male dog who's laying with that female dog is now going to procreate. And they're going to create puppies who are now caged in, who have no way to get out of their circumstances. But when that other dog who lost the first fight gets his energy again, you can believe he's coming back for another fight to see if he can exert some dominance over the guy he lost to. But what do you have now? You have 2 male dogs, a female dog, and some puppies in there. And guess what those puppies are seeing? That the way to behave is like animals. All we do is fight and procreate. Wow. And we're caged in. We don't have any more room to de-escalate this situation, to bring down our anxiety, our animosity towards one another. We're not welcome outside of our cage.
Wow.
Right?
Yep. Dude, that's
metaphorically think of a city that's caged in.
Yeah.
And people will say, one of the things people will say to me is, I had my brother's wife on me one time. And she said, can I take a picture with you? And I'm like, why would you want to do that? She said, my boss doesn't believe that my husband, your brother, and you are related because you're so different. And he said that he believed that the difference, now again, I'm the baby, right, out of 4 boys, that the difference was just the choices that I made compared to my brothers. I hear that all the time. You made choices that right? And I understand that. We have a personal accountability for things. But I used to go around proudly saying that I didn't have a hero, right? People would say, hey, you get those interview questions and who's your hero and who do you look up to? And I would literally, no one.
Right.
I've had no one to look up to. And then one day it hit me. I had framed the word hero improperly, right? I had this idea of someone who was positive in your life, who just poured into you and gave you all these wonderful attributes, who was there for. And then when I framed hero in the sense of a Superman, right, who you see standing on train tracks, leaning his shoulder in, ready to take impact to save people, I asked myself, who in my life took impact that I was supposed to take that saved my life? And it was my mom and my brothers who were murdered and who went to jail. My mom wound up in a nursing home after my brother's death because she drank herself into a stroke. My mother took the impact of his death. My brothers took that impact. My brother had to then become a father figure because he wasn't there, right? And so when you talk about these statements that we make about Youngstown, that it's just animals and cage them all in, you're not playing this through. It's no different than we talk about 20 federal. Let's play it all the way through and see the eventual outcome you just described in labeling folks in a community as animals who just need caged in. We're already caged in.
Yeah. That is dude, that is amazingly deep. Holy crap. We are at 1 hour and 42 freaking minutes.
One of the longest ones we've ever had. It's usually an hour, but I can't. This is good conversation. I don't want to stop him.
I think he could do this all day. You could do this all day. He could do this all day.
The thing is, he's sincere.
That's great.
He's sincere.
Oh, he's 100% amazing.
That's why it's
so because of the way he's able to articulate, like what's actually happening.
Yeah, it's perfect.
That's why he gets those questions like those aren't your brothers.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not the same.
Like, it's perfect. They didn't have the choices that I had. You know what I mean? Like it's everybody has the ability to make choices until you don't, right?
Yeah.
It's like saying, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when life constantly punches you in that face and you're just like, I've got no other real choice. You see kids repeatedly in our news admitting to judges that they're carrying a gun because they felt like they had no other choice.
Yeah.
Not because they just want to run around like thugs, carrying guns.
And in their minds, they really have no other choice.
Bring that comment up. Well, let's end with what Stacy said.
Oh, the boxers. Okay, yeah.
Stacy said everyone needed to hear all of this. Myself, I needed I needed to hear this and have to go back and watch the first half hour I missed. I have had a Youngstown zip for decades throughout my life, but not a Youngstown soul like these gentlemen and many others do. But I think
thank you for that
yeah.
comment. And Stacy.
There were lots of other
awesome,
comments
but
this whole time that we totally missed.
Yeah.
And sorry
everybody.
There were some great ones, but we had.
You guys can go through and answer some of them. There was literally questions.
One from Mark just reminded me I'm supposed to call Boom Boom back.
There's a book I got on Amazon about 1,800 boxers from Youngstown.
1,800.
Yeah. I haven't gotten a chance to read it. So thanks for that.
But everyone, thanks for watching tonight. We really appreciate you. Thanks for all the likes. If you haven't already, give us a like down below.
When's Ja Rule?
September 24th.
Can we go to Ja Rule?
Oh, you want to go to
Ja Rule? Do you think we could press past
the show outside?
Yeah, right outside the.
What day do you air? Is it
Tuesdays and Thursdays? There's a stage at the end of Phelps. Set up there and do a live.
Do you want to do that? Dude, we go live from Ja Rule.
Let's do that live from outside of Ja Rule.
That's a Saturday.
Ja Rule, what up, man?
Is that a Saturday?
Yeah.
We'll go live. I'll go live whenever.
But
Dude,
I gotta go to sleep. We'll host it from 20 Federal.
We can do it.
Do it right from 20 Federal.
We're solving all of the world's problems.
All right, go ahead, Isaac.
But thank you, everybody. Like I said, if you haven't already, give us a like down below. Thank you to all of our sponsors. And also remember, the MLO Bros stands for Mortgage Loan Originator Brothers. We are by day loan officers, podcast by night. So if you need a home loan, refinance,
everything all the time,
give us a call. We'll take care of you. My NMLS number is 1949316. So we don't get
562-548. When is this?
Have you had anybody on that you've given a mortgage or loan to?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It actually
I
happens a lot.
realize this means I can't get a loan from you guys.
Why? Because it'd be bribery.
Some type of conflict.
Friggin' lawyers watching right now.
Right, I'll be brought up on
The
charges.
lawyer's like writing this down.
and he uses city ARP money for the down payment.
And then when's the Flea open?
Once per month. Our next Flea is September 10th.
September 10th.
9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
There you go. So, all right, cool.
Julius, where can people contact you, my friend?
People can contact me at the city's website.
We totally didn't go around this.
Our phone number is 330-259-6158. Yes, I just read that. Okay.
And go get your card and get your car detailed too.
Yeah, you can also get your car detailed at Kingley Express, downtown Youngstown.
There you go. All right,
pay for that line.
Thanks.
Right.
Yeah, dude, you gotta, yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, you better. We're gonna before you go, we gotta get you signs and papers.
Yeah, don't leave. Make sure it's all fair, but don't leave.
Crooked Youngstown. Episode number.
But
season 2.
Thank you, gentlemen. This was awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Everybody, tomorrow 9 a.m. we're gonna go live with 2 people for a children's cancer research that's at 9 a.m.
Less than 12 hours.
And then tomorrow night I am going ghost hunting. You're not.
Fun. I'm staying home.
You ever go
ghost hunting at?
Do you ever see the Ohio Reformatory in Mansfield?
Yeah,
where they filmed Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah, I went there.
You want to go? You want to go ghost hunting with us?
It was scary the first time I went.
O'Keel said that's a black guy thing.
O'Keel calls that white guy shit. That's
Yeah,
what he calls it. White people.
For me, it was just like the movie. Nope.
That's actually why we were bringing you.
So we're gonna be. You guys want to watch? You can watch.
We could really come back and have that conversation.
That would
Huge cultural difference. Like, I don't know white people why they so readily admit when they get beat up. Like, black folks do not admit losing fights. Like, no.
Oh, not even if you got jumped.
You start a story with like, yo, in the 3rd grade, my best friend beat me up, and I'm like, no,
never.
Started again.
We should do that. So we should have.
What's Greg? What's he called again?
Greg, the psychic guy.
So we had a psychic in here that's like spirit medium type guy. And O'Keel's working in the other office. He's like, "Why are you?" He comes out. He's like, "Why are you bringing him in here? Why are you bringing him into the office where I work? You're gonna bring ghosts and demons."
Yeah, then they're gonna follow him home.
Dead serious.
So then he's like checking in on us throughout the podcast. And I can see him looking around the corner, and he turns up his music so that
he don't want to hear none of it.
I don't want any of it.
Like, nope, it's not coming in here.
We should totally
things only white people do.
Like a cultural different show. Have O'Keel come on and the 5 of us. Could you imagine that?
And we have drinks, please.
Yeah. Oh, we're drinking.
I don't know if we want to drink during that.
I proposed a hood scavenger hunt with a bus ride, and then a country version of it.
Oh, I'm in.
You know what I'm saying?
Like white people on buses.
Like, we're gonna show you.
Wait, where are we going?
Cultural difference. Like, we can show you better than we can tell you.
This is where Councilman Julius Oliver got shot
between Hudson and Idlewood.
And then when we bring them out here, this is where I pushed a cow over when I was growing up right here. I mean, you can do
you literally have to start where Jim Traffic died on his tractor. You really can't start anywhere else from
was
there.
that y'all I seen with the drawing?
Yeah, I have that thing. Yeah,
that was
he
Traffic.
He went to
prison.
He went to prison.
Yeah, he was an artist in prison
with my grandma, with our grandma.
Yeah.
So he sent her painting.
Dude, I got letters from Grandma and Jim. I don't want to talk about it.
Nice.
Grandma and Jim. Yeah, there's some very lovey-dovey letters.
Nice.
Wow. Somebody sold me a Persian rug at Rogers and told me it was from Jim Trafficant's estate sale, and I said, I'm gonna let you lie to me and believe that. Like, I'm just gonna let you. It doesn't even have to be true.
Might have been somebody rolled up in there.
Yeah.
All right, we gotta get out of here. It's late. We'll be back, Isaac, 9 o'clock tomorrow.
9 a.m.
All right, everybody. We'll see you guys all later. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks again.
Thanks for having us.
I'll see you guys. You get this on. What if? Why don't your fingers? Because I have fat fingers. That's why. Look at my sausages. Dude, just look out. Let's take a beer.
Just use your feet.
Yeah, hold on.
Don't do that. Then it'll be like, you were a part of that movie. So,